Hey everybody, before we get started, just reminding you this episode is brought to you by our patrons, like Ahaga Comics, Qua, Jimmy Vasquez, Kylie Denton, Nestor Flores, and Soto-san 0424. If you like what we do and want to see us do more, consider supporting us on Patreon. You can get access to episodes early and lots of other goodies, and it'll really help us out. Thanks for your support, everybody. And somebody pick up that phone, because I called it! So hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. It is time once again to talk about Star Wars Legion by Fantasy Flight Games. No, sadly, not more Clone Wars. Though it is more new announcements, maybe you guys were expecting this. So we'll see how the video does, because I know that you guys were super happy about Clone Wars, because that got lots of views, and maybe less so about the Occupier, even though I did that video. That's what happens when FFG spoils everything for you. Anywho, yeah, we got new announcements. As I've already predicted, well, first of all, new month, new announcements. And of course, that means it's the perfect time to announce the follow-up, the mirror, whatever you want to call it, for Rebel Veterans and Tauntaun Riders. We have announced the Shoretroopers and the Dewback Riders. Yay! So yeah, we've got a new core unit for Imperials and a new support unit for Imperials also, which will be a creature trooper. I've heard some people kind of debate back and forth on whether or not they think Shoretroopers are a good fit. I've been calling this for a long time, as seen by that intro skit, which, by the way, if you weren't paying attention, that's not just an audio thing. There's a visual gag there. So, scroll back in the timeline and actually watch it. But I'll wax a little bit elongated on this point and just say that, obviously, both of these make perfect sense as units for Legion because they're both on screen in major movies. Some people have been like, boy, there's a lot of Rogue One content. I'm like, yeah, no, it was one of the few films in the original trilogy, the Galactic Civil War time span, which had a shitload of ground combat. It had multiple ground engagements, one of which was kind of the action set piece for the whole end of the movie. It was the equivalent of kind of the Battle of Yavin 4, but, on the ground. Though there was also some space stuff. There was some space stuff, too. But seriously, no, they make total sense as units in the major engagement. And considering what they're doing, I think they do make sense as core troopers. Some people have said that, they're supposed to be really rare, but, they're in Star Wars Commander as the same type of thing as, Snow Troopers. I'm not an expert on Commander. Maybe if people have played it in more detail, they can tell me. But to me, it looks like Shore Troopers and Heavy Shore Troopers are just, their special event skin tie-ins for Rogue One, the same as regular infantry guys. And Snow Troopers, for a special map thing, so not necessarily, it's not necessarily like LFL is treating them as a big deal, which is why FFG can probably choose to treat them as not a big deal. And certainly, if you think about on-screen, I think that a minimum 2-to-1 ratio of Shore Troopers to Death Troopers works, right? That makes sense for the visual fidelity we're going for. So, yeah, we'll jump into more stuff later. And Dewbacks, obviously, they're actually there. They make sense for a creature trooper unit that's on-screen in the original trilogy. And actually, they've got a lot of options which FFG is using. So yeah, it's pretty cool. We'll get into that when we break down their units. Anyway, this intro's gone on long enough. Let's take a look at, first up, those Shore Troopers, because they're 41 and Dewbacks are 42. So, those Shore Troopers. Well, first of all, let's talk about this. So, they come in at a whopping 52 points, it looks like, for 4 units per slot. They have a heavy weapon and a trooper slot. They have training, gear, and grenades, so they've got the training slot, like I said, some people were like, what? Oh, I better be Mud Trooper. No, there'd have been a riot if Mud Troopers had a training slot. For Shore Troopers, they make perfect sense, because Shore Troopers are supposedly, more senior in rank. They're, senior NCOs and stuff, who have seen some frontline experience and special training. So it makes sense that they actually have the training slot. They make a good equivalent to the Rebel Veterans, because to be a Shore Trooper, you probably have to have seen some combat. They have 1 health, 1 courage. They have a red defense die. They have no surges, speed 2, and they have black dice in both fighty, punchy, and shooty with E22 blaster rifles. So, hey, if that means if you do get your Mud Troopers, assuming FFG is internally consistent, they'll have a black die. Maybe they'll be like Rebel Troopers and be white defense, black attack, but somehow I feel like they won't. Anyway, you can see pretty clearly that them being the same cost as Stormtroopers, Clone Troopers, sorry, with 13 points per mini, which you can actually see in the Shore Trooper Extra add-on, guy number 5, that these are definitely a premium core unit, Death Troopers were definitely a premium infantry unit. These guys are in that same vein. They have decent saves. They have decent dice without, any chance for mods. And for keywords, they've got Coordinated Placement Trooper, just like the Rebel Veterans. So, E-Web teams, even though they'll look horribly out of place being all Hothified, but E-Web teams can benefit from these guys, as can their Mortar Trooper. Yeah, they've got a Mortar guy. So that's pretty cool. People I know are expecting that. And also, I think the article explains a little bit more about what we should expect from detachment. When talking about the Mortar, it mentions that the unit is on its own, and it'll have the fire support rule, so it can lend its dice to any ally, and it'll be its own separate unit with its own order token and cost and stuff. But it can only be deployed if you deploy a unit of Shoretroopers. So yeah, I think that's what the detachment rule is. Your list building has to include at least one Shoretrooper. Then you can include the Mortar as a detachment. Their other keyword is Target 1. After you receive an order, gain 1 aim token. That's really good for these guys. That means they want to be given orders. They want to be coordinated to. They don't have comms, so there's that issue. There's no comms relay, no long range, no HQ uplink. But unlike Rebel Veterans, who are kind of flimsy if they don't get their defending token, they don't get their opportunity to dig in covers. Shoretroopers have that red defense die, which Imperial players are used to rolling without surges and just hoping. So you can definitely have these guys push up with your commanders to get order tokens, which gives them aim tokens, which will help negate any variance in their attack dice. So that's pretty cool, and just totally fits in with the faction. And they've got gear slots, and we know that electro binoculars are coming with Clone Wars, so that can give anybody in the field a spotter one to pass out more aim tokens too. Just saying. Probably really fun with veers and some coordinated fire. I think it's the Imperial one. And also, I will say, I was, all whole hog to go switch over to clones, but these guys and the Dewback, but especially these guys, because they have the T-21B target rifle. That was absolutely my favorite gun from the first EA attempt at Battlefront. So the fact that these Shoretrooper guys have it, that's just great. So I'll definitely have to buy some of these just for the minis at some point in my life. But goddamn man, they're really swag. And as far as we can tell, that appears to give them 2 blacks and a white at range 1 to 4 with critical 1. So you get a limited conversion. Depending on how costly that guy is, if you're running one or 2 units of these, which I will say you probably aren't given their price much like veterans running more than 1 or 2. But that's definitely a firepower you want to add. You want to add those extra 2. The black dice and the white die and the extra range, plus the conversion and critical 1. It's great. They also come with Overwatch and Endurance training upgrades. Fairly okay for them. I mean, they got range 1 to 3. They might have an aim. They have an aim token if they receive an order, which is not quite the same as ready. But I could see them overwatching, though not necessarily. But they also have Endurance, which lets them shed extra suppression. Since there's still only 1 courage, that can make sense for them. You don't want to do duck and cover. So both of those options are good slots. And they've got a gear upgrade that we don't know what it does yet. But yeah, so that's Shoretroopers. I think they're pretty good. They look, for their high level of cost, I think they look pretty well-rounded because as an Empire player, you're getting that opportunity for black dice, and you still keep your red defense die, They generate aim tokens. They can coordinate to their own emplacements, which means you'll want to give these guys orders so you can proc target, so that works as a way to keep passing orders, And I think that they're going to be pretty decent at what they do. And like I said, I totally think they deserve to be in Legion, and they make total sense. And they actually, honestly, if you look at it, make sense in the slot they are in. So let's talk about the Dewback Rider. So Mr. Dewback Sculpt, who actually appears to have a couple of options because he's got a lot of arsenal upgrades, a lot of possible weapons. So I assume that means he's got a lot of possible arms. Also, I guess it's been a hot second since I saw what a Dewback looked like. So I was a little surprised by the design, but I guess it's my ballpark. So the Dewback Rider is a support unit. As mentioned, it's a creature trooper. It looks like it's 90 points, but that could be an 8. Who knows? I feel like 90. That was probably a good ideal. You get 1, obviously. They have a red defense die. Good old Empire. They have 6 health and 2 courage. So let's see. Let me double check some stuff because I want to look real quick. How hardy are those Tauntauns? So they're about 4 per. but they have a white defense die, so they're a little bit easier to hit. But they have the same courage, that makes sense. So technically the overall unit of the Tauntaun Riders has more health, but the Dewback Rider is better at shedding it, even though they're speed 1, because, oh, by the way, they have surge to hit conversion 2. Yay, Empire. Because they have armor 1. I also called that. Just saying. So the Dewback's thick hide lets them shed 1 unless you're fighting somebody with impact. So that's pretty good damage mitigation and red saves. They have Relentless, so after making a movement, you can make a ranged attack. Actually, wait, no. Relentless is any attack, right? Yeah, that's right. Sorry, I was thinking of Steady. Relentless is any attack, which is great because they have a charge, and they also have a melee. Sick. They have Reposition. I believe that's also shared with the Tauntauns. Yeah, they have both Relentless and Reposition also. That makes sense. So, they're designed to be a little bit more agile than many ground vehicles. So, here's an interesting combo also. The Dewback has an effect called Spur. While performing a move action, you may gain 1 suppression token to increase your movement speed by 1. And then they also have Unhindered, so you ignore difficult terrain effects. So, this means under any circumstances, you can choose to take a suppression to get your Dewback to move at speed 2. And then you can double move and still attack because you've got Relentless. And because you've got Unhindered, you don't need to worry about difficult terrain in that either. You still keep your speed 2. So, that's pretty interesting and pretty good, I think. Also, boy howdy, FFG really loves the new critical keyword. So, the Dewback Rider has Razor Claws and Shock Prod. So, he's got his Shock Prod, exactly like I predicted. And the Dewback's Claws, which is 3 red, I assume for the Claws, and 3 white, I assume for the Shock Prod, with Critical 2 and Suppressive. So, that's a melee attack that has Suppressive, like Jin's Tonfa, and it's Critical 2. And you've got 3 red dice with Surge. So, that's almost assuredly 3 hits. Some of which you can switch to crits, with critical, and then some white dice in there, and just, yeah, the Dewback is slow, but if it gets into melee with the unit, it's just going to tear guys apart. That's probably 3 dead troopers, assuming, and possibly 3 dead armor, damage to armor. The only thing it doesn't have going for it is no sharpshooter, and no pierce, but, hey, it's got critical 2, though, and suppressive. So that's going to be real nasty. These big chunky boys are gonna get in melee, and they're gonna cause some problems, especially with that armor 1, like I said. And then it also has let's say it's got training and comms, just like the Tauntaun Riders, and it's got also an arsenal slot because he's got a couple different weapons. So these boys also can take the T-21 blaster rifle, not the targeting version, but the regular repeating blaster, which gives him 4 white dice at range 1, 2, 3, I think. It only costs 10 points, so assuming he's 90, that's 100 points to add a free 4 dice with Surge attack. I mean, they're whites, so it's swingy. It's less swingy than the ATRT, but still swingy. Not the ATR. Well, the ATRT also has, I think, a Gatling, but I mean the rotary. So it's less swingy than the rotary because you've got Surges, but not as effective. But still a decent firepower at a decent range. 1 to 3 with Relentless is a very big swath. There's also the RT-97C blaster, so they've got a different repeating blaster. I believe that's 1 red and 3 white, and it's range 1 to 4. Oh, and the T-21 has critical 2 also, I should mention. So you can switch a couple of those to possibly switch some of those to crits, which means it can be used against armor, against cover, stuff like that. So, but the R297C doesn't have any impact, doesn't have any special qualities, but it is range 1 to 4, and I assume it's red, white, white, like it was on the pintle mount on the Occupier. So, that's pretty solid, and you're looking at a fairly decent, range attack. 1 to 4 with Relentless is great. It doesn't have any mods in it, but that 1 red die with Surge means that it'll be super good at at least 1 scratch damage for suppression and stuff, and maybe your whites will roll stuff. Who knows? Still a very effective unit. And then also they can take the CR-24 Flamethrower, which is range 1, is blast and spray. Don't know what the die size is on that inherently, but let me go ahead and check if that's the same Flamethrower as the Flame Trooper. Well, actually, I don't think the Flame Troopers don't actually have them listed, do they? It's just Flametrooper, isn't it? Yeah, it is just Flametrooper. Well, that said, we can probably assume that it's the same unit because it says the same stuff. So, that's 1 black die at range 1, blast and spray. Since these guys are relentless and do have spur and unhindered, that's a little scary. It's a little freaky deaky. Give them endurance to constantly keep their suppression down, because that's in the bag. It's in the box with them. You can totally bum rush up with blast and spray and get in there and just light guys up. That's going to be real effective, ironically, against those new droid troopers because they have 6 guys by default and can go up to 8. So we're gonna light those dudes up, real impressive. Get a lot of dice in there. You do have a surge to hit, so you're gonna be pretty accurate with them. It's pretty nasty, and I think that gives the Dewback Rider a decent spread of options. You can use them purely. You can use basically naked purely as melee or rush troops. Charging the enemy and knocking them over, getting them down there. You could. Sorry, yawned a little. You can use them as ranged skirmishers with their very long-range rifles to just throw dice down range. Or you can use them as close quarters, support troops with flamethrowers. A lot of good combinations. We'll have to see how costly those arsenal upgrades are when things shake out. We know that the box also comes with endurance, as I mentioned, and tenacity, which is another great pick for them because they've got 6 wounds and they have a pretty hefty melee attack. And they'll come with some form of comms upgrade, which I don't think we know yet. It'll be new, or it'll be long-range comms or something. Don't know. Still, I think the Dewback Riders are a pretty interesting addition. And like I said, I'm pretty sure because there's both the Shock Prod and the T-21 model and stuff, they'll be able to be fully modeled with each gun they have. So that's super cool. And so that's all the news in the announcement. They're both supposed to be coming Q2. So let's see. I think we're mostly predicted up until July or so. So I assume these guys are July or something. Is that still Q2? I don't know. I said this I think before, but supposedly at Gamma, Asmodee said they wanted to move out of quarters into actual months at least. I can't wait until that bleeds into the announcement articles for FFG stuff because that makes this a lot easier than having to do math over. Okay, what are the last half dozen expansions announced, and where do they fit in into what? I'm pretty sure that Clone Wars is still linked as Q3, so these guys are before that at least. So there's that. And after which I think they've said that Clone Wars will be Legion in general will be switching to mostly Clone Wars, but with a little bit of these guys in the Galactic Civil War, the original trilogy factions, for a while until the Clone Wars are caught up. I don't have any weird rampant speculation. Almost assuredly, the next standalone units that are going to get announced are the actual standalone Droideka and Bark Speeder expansions, which hopefully have spreads and stuff so that we can actually look at them. And there will be some manner of heavy, I assume, coming out for Clone Wars factions at some point. I'm not sure exactly what they'll go for. We'll have to see. It's going to be really interesting if they've learned their lesson about vehicle design for the first 2 heavies for Clone Wars. But hey, you got plenty of fucking impact lying around if you need it. So yeah, that's basically the video. I don't think there's any, like I said, other special predictions we need to make. Shoretroopers look fucking sweet. They got their cool mortar trooper. I know a lot of guys have been asking for that. Like I said, they got their sick targeting rifle. They look good. I still like them, and I still think they fit the Imperial doctrine. And like I said, I don't want to get into a whole discussion with people about, they're supposed to be super elite and special. Why aren't they special forces? I think some people, maybe because Scout Troopers were first, they're overselling special forces. Or underselling them. I think they're supposed to be pretty elite, like what special forces are, and especially they're supposed to be much more limited in number. There aren't a lot of short troopers, but you can still expect to field, a few squads worth of them. After all, having an entire company of these guys would be 150 guys, but that could still be quote unquote scarce compared to literal legions of men, which is at least by the historical definition, was 3,000 to 6,000 men, you know. So think about that in military terms of scale. Okay. Anyway, that's the video. Don't forget to like the video if you like it. Leave any comments if you have any thoughts about these units in the comment section down below. And of course, if you're new here and haven't already subscribed, to keep up with all the latest Legion videos and other videos we do about stuff. We do stuff and things. It's cool. Whenever they release that Clone Wars RPG book, actually, we'll probably do some Star Wars gaming. That'll be up on the channel. Anywho, hooly-doo, hoop-doop. I'll leave you with that. And also remind you that you can consider supporting us on Patreon. It really helps the channel out. You know, helps us keep our content driven on this area. And maybe you could have got this video early and some other stuff. So, you know, get ready to deploy the garrison, everybody. I don't have any fun Dewback quotes. It's just all Shoretrooper quotes. And so, I'll let you guys off, and I'll see you next time. Thanks for your time as always, everybody.